And this week we are featuring another game against Monster and Wwwvvwvw, which I believe is different from W's. But it is also on Fighting Spirit again with W's, WVW here, spawning up here in the top right. And Monster spawning here in the bottom right. Last game, Monster pretty much made short work of W's if it's the same player, but you know, its PvZ looked pretty solid. Did pretty much all the right things, and then had a, you know, kind of cheeky / lucky little abuse that it did there by burrowing some lings, and then you know, causing the Protoss army to be out of position when it finally engaged. But we'll see if there's any sort of adaptation here. W's look like going for that pylon expansion, forge fast expand. Meanwhile, we do have Overlord. See Overpool again, or maybe a 12 hatch, maybe even 9 hatch. You know, that's very popular nowadays. 9-10 hatch. And we're definitely going to see an Overpool out of Monster. And W's luckily scouting just right again. Is going to poke in. Not really see much going on right now because, honestly, not much going on. But back at his base, you know, just making them probes, getting up to go. He's got about, you know, 10 or so on the mineral line and 1 down in the scout. Monster, though, fearing that, you know, again, maybe some proxy or something, just doing a little scout around. See if there's any shenanigans to be worried about as it takes its expansion. Meanwhile, we do have, in the face of an Overpool, a Nexus first coming out of W's. We do have a pair of Lings coming out, but so far, oh, and the probe able to get 1 drone kill. It's actually pretty significant early on here. It is only going to have 9 drones now. We do have a pair of Lings that just popped, and it looks like more drones. And the forge is finished with the Nexus about halfway done, and the first cannon just getting started. And those Zerglings finally catch that scouting probe. It is only going to send 1 out to the top right to check things out. However, you know, unfortunately Monster doesn't know this, but if he just sent it now, potentially he could get on top of this cannon and just knock it out before W's even have it in place. You know, it's see how fast this 1 Ling got here. If he would have just brought all 4 of those Lings up, you know, he would have been able to easily take this out. But he didn't. And because of that, W's is able to get it up. Was able to get a drone inside though, so you know, we'll be able to get scouting information at least. But potentially, you know, all of the offensive potential of the early game is basically done for both sides. You know, Monster can make Zerglings as needed, even add some Sunkens. And W's just got his gateway up, so he can't even really make any offensive moves because he can just make Zealots just now. But, you know, he's also pretty safe. He does have this little area to the left of the pylon that is not Ling-proof. So he will have to, you know, flood that either with Zealots or probes or something like that to protect the cannon. But, you know, it's not bad. However, there is potential, you know, here in a little bit if, oh, going Hydralisk. So there goes that. But if he had gone Ling speed, this is pretty open, and with only 1 cannon to the far left of the forge, this area is not protected at all, this main ramp, so he could have just run right up there with those Zerglings and run right by everything. But gonna go for the Hydras instead. Does have a sunken, well, creep colony technically, but we'll probably be making that into sunkens. 3rd hatchery is finally finished. Hasn't really sent any drones yet. Probably, honestly, not Maynard any drones. Just instead make them from the hatchery as needed. Do have Hydra speed about a third of the way done, and we do have the sunken up. Meanwhile, W's throwing down 2 extra gateways, has started the +1. However, don't see... Oh, Cord literally just started. So W's maybe going for a pretty heavy Zealot bust here. Throwing down all these gateways before any of his tech. And meanwhile, Monster still pretty content just to sit on these 3 hatcheries. Hasn't actually gotten... Ooh, we have a little harassment coming down here. Zealot is able to get 2 drones. Is going to get a 3rd. Can he get a 4th? Can the Zealot... oh, come on, no, focus. Focus the drone. Focus the drone. And he gets the 4th drone. That is a pretty hefty loss for Monster. He is going to finally take that Zealot out, but at a pretty substantial loss. And in fact, we have a 2nd Zealot coming down just now. However, not really much. Oh, just they got a few more workers finally spawning. Will he be able to get these workers before the Sunkens come in? Good job doing a little drone gliding there. Ooh, and W will get both of those workers. So far, 2 Zealots to 6 workers. That's a pretty good trade in W's favor. And in fact, just keeping the pressure on, sending out 4 more Zealots. He really wants to take out this 3rd. And one of these Zealots is going to die very quickly. However, are finally getting on top of the Sunken. We'll take that out. However, these Hydras, if microed correctly, should be able to, you know, stem any further damage that these Zealots can do. And in fact, having a little drone glide up there, finally putting those hatcheries in the main and the natural to use to make some more workers. And now that the 4 Hydras are marching on these 2 Zealots, like, there's nothing W can do. If Monster had played his cards a little bit better there, he could have potentially easily sniped both of those while also not being out of position like this. So now he has to rush his Hydras back and hopefully get behind this sunken line before these goons and Zealots just come make mincemeat out of them. And in fact, catching the last 2 in the back there. W, seeing that main is completely fortified here with about 5 Sunkens, is going to rush up here into 3rd. Does have 3 Sunkens up here, however, hard to say. It should be in the Protoss's favor, but it's going to be heavy losses. Looks like Monster will take out most of those goons. Will he be able to get the 4th goon? Nope. Will be able to finally take out all 3 of those Sunkens in exchange for about 4 goons. However, it does have a wave of reinforcements coming in. These Zealots, in fact, just screening for these Hydralisks, allowing this hatchery to just be annihilated. And now that that's in place, rushing up the ramp to get the high ground. Monster down to just two simple bases. No layer, however, it does have 1 carapace started. W should have 1 attack done. Does have 1 armor upgrade on the way. And it's not, you know, completely out for Monster, but compared to the other game, he is in a very precarious position. So far, W's content just to sit on this 3rd, trying to wait for these drones to pop up. And the goon will actually catch a Zergling or a drone or something that was running up there. Meanwhile, Monster starting to throw these various burrowed units all over the place to allow him to get vision of when W's is going to try to expand. And in fact, W's just going for it. taking Monster's third as his third. Does have a batch of zealots and goons up here on the ramp to protect. However, without significant investment in some AoE, he's probably not going to be able to break this front here. And in fact, going completely all in on the mass gateway, has not even dropped a citadel yet. Now that these goons are here, we'll have to wait and see, but it's hard to say. With the way they engage, they should be able to easily pick off the Zerglings if they just do some pullback micro. However, the Sunkens and the Hydras are going to be way more than they can handle with that. And they don't have enough Zealots to tank right now. In fact, those drones preventing that Nexus from going down, so W's throwing up some cannons. Gonna be able to detect those drones really soon. And so far, finally adding the Citadel, Stargate, and Robo after this mass gateway incursion at the beginning of the game. And Monster going for it, gonna try and take out this third. Is gonna get on top of these goons. They are putting up a valiant fight, but there's just honestly too much Zerg. Eventually they will die, whether or not they have the high ground advantage. Well, unless Monster decides that he needs to come back and protect his main, because W's took that as an opportunity to try to push the natural. However, not advised, or honestly took a little too long to do it, to take advantage of the situation. Will end up saving the third very, very, very temporarily, but now that those units are basically outside of the natural anymore, this should just be quick cleanup work for Monster. And in fact, W's going for it again, straight in. Having to pull back now. Just a constant tug of war. Where Monster trying to clear that third. W's trying to push the natural. However, the natural so far still stands. The Nexus will probably be put down soon. Monster deciding to expand over here to the bottom left. We do have 111 on the complete upgrades for W's. Meanwhile, just one carapace on the Zerg. Do have second carapace in the works. Have a layer done, but not really anything else. Is getting +1 ranged attack. W's finally has secured this location. Should be relatively safe from any attack that Monster can throw at him, at least until he can Doom Drop. And as it stands now, we just have a little standoff here up against the Protoss and the Zerg. The Dragoons pretty much arcing outside of the natural, and Monster desperately clinging to those sunken colonies. Is trying to push through. I mean, it's just really wasting his units here. However, maybe needed to bleed a little. Looks like he is actually supply blocked, so that way he can make a couple lurkers. And unfortunately, sending the probes way too early. They are going to long distance mine. However, Monster finally has that third, technically his fourth, back under control. It is starting to throw down some sunken colonies. And in fact, these goons just sitting here taking these lurker spines. They will have observers soon with the observatory done. However, looks like he has just started making it out of the robotics facility. Should be about another 45 seconds before it'll really be up here in the front. Monster is looking like he is going to be able to claw back into this game by literally slow pushing lurkers out of the natural to clear out the clear out the path to the main of W's. However, W's does have a decent amount of gateway man. Gateway man doing his best gateway man stuff. But he really needs Reavers, High Templars. He needs splash is what I'm trying to get at. Because 1 for 1, the Protoss army trades very well. Multiple units to 1, the Protoss army is terrible at trading. So that's why it needs the AoE, to balance things out. Get those numbers in more than 1 to 1 or 2 to 1. And we have 2 carapace done, but not 1 range. W's going for the 2 shield. Don't know if that's the play here, but it is what it is. Got a few idle probes there. And Monster may be looking to take this natural now. Nope, just going out, chilling around, just scouting things out. We do have a 4th just finished from W's, though. Economically speaking, they are very, 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 equal in terms of actual production. The 3rd really didn't kick in until Monster's 4th did, and then now that he's got the 4th, Monster looks like he might be going to take the 5th up here in the top right. Top left. No, actually here at the 9. Oh, he's double expanding, actually. Is a little behind maybe now, actually, now that we look at this, but not that far behind. Should be very easily catch-upable. And does have the Hive, however, no Nidus network yet. That would basically end the predicament that he's facing by allowing him to just reorganize his forces at another entrance through the teleporting Nidus Canal. Instead, content to just kind of float units back and forth with these overlords. Meanwhile, W's completely mined out in his main, has finally added some High Templars, however, immediately morphing them into Archons, not allowing them to get really any energy or cast Ice Storms. And really, Archons aren't going to help him against this main Hydra Lurker force. That's more of a late game or a Ling-based, Mutaling-based army composition. Archons are notorious trash against Hydralisks and Lurkers. And Monster starting to go for it, starting to pour out these units. Is trading relatively efficiently, considering W's isn't engaging with his whole army just yet. He's even starting to slowly churn through these Protoss units and work his way out. In fact, getting some very favorable trades here. The Archon's finally starting to come down. However, as I was just talking about, fortunately, they didn't really do much of anything. In fact, just took out that High Templar before a single storm was cast. Unfortunately, a very horrible engagement from W's. Very much looked like I was trying to play. Does have some, relatively healthy forces, though, after everything's said and done. And is reinforcing with some more zealots and such. But, I don't know. Compared to the commanding position he used to hold, Monster is really starting to catch up. And there's really not much W's can do about it. Hasn't done a good job really scouting around, trying to find and shut down potentially any ninja locations that Monster was putting up, and now he's lost pretty much the entire left side of the map because of that. Trying to save that lurker there, however, not really worth it. will end up bleeding a few more units just because of that. And kind of hilariously, actually, looking at Monster's resources, despite having pretty much the entire left side of the map, he is doing horrible, I guess is one way you could look at it, in the sense of, yes, he is spending all of the money basically as soon as he gets it. However, he really doesn't have that big of an army. And most of his workers are still kind of stuck in the main here. Really would like to see a Nidus Canal out of him. So that way he could, you know, transfer the workers. Yeah, you're not shutting that down. Or you shouldn't, at least. Monster going back and forth, trying to decide to take out this third location of W's down at 6. However, W's deciding to go ahead and proxy a bunch of gateways in the center to allow him to macro out more units faster and position them more easily. However, Monster finally starting to make some units at his other hatcheries. And adding on a Spire. It's going to be a little difficult, I think, to switch over to air if he's trying to do that, considering he spent most of his upgrade time already into ground. However, it's not impossible. Meanwhile, W's is really taken aback. He only has this mining base here at the 3rd and then the 6th to bringing in any resources at all right now. Both the main geysers are basically depleted. Does have a nice bank, but he really needs to get like this 12 o'clock position or such going really soon. Otherwise, Monster will eventually just completely outspend him. In fact, Monster really starting to get up there in population size, and the unit sizes for the population are a bit different, so a 200 Protoss army will be smaller than a 200 Zerg army on average. But, I mean, this is helpful. Like, don't get me wrong. This is definitely helpful. W's is doing a lot of damage. She's going to take out pretty much this whole worker line when Monster doesn't have a ton of workers as it is. May even get hatchery. Hell, he may even get this next base up here. However, the problem still stands that he only has 2 mining bases. And that is the bigger issue that he needs to take care of right now. And in fact, rushing in will probably take out this sunken and maybe a couple more workers, but other than that, nothing really going on here. Lurker Archon is not a good composition to be fighting Hydra Lurker with. Taking this second to Maynard these drones. However, Maynarding them right into the center where W's is holding off his army. Is going to lose a couple, but we'll save most of them. And this... hard to say. They will definitely break through, but at a lot of cost. And potentially at the loss of another expansion. In fact, W's going up here to the top left. They do have some lurkers on the ramp, but observers are finally with the army, and that's not going to stop them. They are rushing in. And in fact, just barely is going to be able to break through this. However, W's is not really attacking the 3rd. I mean, he's sending his units in piecemeal. Keep them from, oh, finally gathered up all his forces in here to a big rush. And then we got, well, is that the last observer? Looks like it. So the drones looks like will be saved, and the lurkers are still here. In fact, potentially seeing the first storm that I've caught all game long, 25 minutes in. But it is what it is, you know. Been doing so far decently with the gateway composition, but really needs to start adding in more storms if he wants to more, you know, confidently take these engagements against the Hydras. Meanwhile, able to finally kill off this 6 o'clock position here. So really, this 3 o'clock is the only mining base for W's, and it is under assault right now. Hydras did find the center pylon here and bust that out, so no more center gateways for W's too. Meanwhile, Protoss still ahead in supply, but Monster inching it closer ever so curiously. And from there, we're going to have to probably start adding in more Corsairs, because now the Mutaswitch is happening, and I did kind of talk about how that was probably not a good thing from Monster, but oh, in fact, looks like I may have been a little more right. Unfortunately, catching several Archon shots there. Monster, though, doing what he can to basically seal this game, trying to assault this last mining position again. However, W's, if he can ever clear that burrowed Zergling, is trying to take the 12 o'clock and pushing down here into the bottom left. Monster does not have a ton of defense right now. Is losing most of his army to this base. However, W's needs to make a crap or get off the pot moment here, because Monster has broken through his final defenses here at the 3rd, and once he loses this, he lost all mining that he has. He has no mining bases after this. And in fact, trying to desperately hold on to this ramp, but what does that matter? He's basically done. Like, there's nothing much that is going to be able to happen here from W's. He went from commanding lead in this game to, unfortunately, getting taken out from the sneaky hatcheries on the left side of the map. Basically allowing Monster to circumvent all of the economic damage that he had dealt to him in the first bit of the game. His last remaining chance is basically this area right here. However, 1 High Templar, 2 cannons, and a couple zealots. That's a tough sell. That is a real tough sell. Meanwhile, Monster about to bust through this front door. Every lost probe hurts at this point, considering W's only has 7 left. And W's finally laying down those storms. And look at that carnage. Bought himself a few more minutes. However, very soon, unfortunately, it looks like Monster will be able to just bust through that front door. Yep, finally got the Ultralisk. Has 5-1 on the upgrades. I mean, those Ultras ain't gonna die to nothing. And in fact, finding and sniffing out this 12 o'clock position, immediately sending the Hydras. And in fact, doing some storm dodging. And W's with that, unfortunately, has no real way to fight back. Might kill a few of these Hydras with that storm, but Monster sealing this game, taking out his last mining base. No workers, no real army. Just nothing left for W's here. We're going to have to call it here because all that's left is the destruction of W's base. But GG. Congrats, Monster, on the win. And as usual, if you would like your replays cast, feel free to submit them at our email listed below, skp.screps@gmail.com. Thanks and have a good night.